The office tower was nearly deserted, bathed in the glow of flickering fluorescent lights. Alexandra Pierce, the powerful and composed CEO of a major tech company, stepped into the elevator after a long day of high-stakes meetings. As the doors slid shut, the elevator jolted and screeched to a sudden stop. The light above her dimmed, and a low hum of silence filled the space. Her phone, no signal. She tapped it again, then stared at the screen as if willing it to work. Nothing. She took a deep breath, placing her briefcase beside her. Inside were confidential documents she had planned to review, but now they seemed meaningless. Her jaw clenched as she checked her watch. The minute hand ticked cruelly forward. Time wasn't on her side. Outside, no one knew she was trapped. Her assistant had left hours ago. The maintenance staff wouldn't arrive until morning. She tried the emergency button, it crackled, then cut off. The cold steel walls of the elevator suddenly felt like they were closing in. She whispered to herself, "Not now," her voice cracking under the weight of everything she carried, not just professionally, but personally. A tear welled up in her eye, and for a moment, the mask cracked. She had been holding it all together for so long. The corporate armor, the unshakable facade, it faltered in the silence of that metal box. She wiped the tear quickly, instinctively, as if someone might be watching. She couldn't afford to fall apart. But in that moment of stillness and fear, Alexandra Pierce, the woman who led boardrooms and commanded respect, felt utterly human, alone, and vulnerable. And though she didn't know it yet, help was on its way, from someone she'd never expect. Jake Reynolds pushed open the heavy glass doors of the office building, his worn sneakers squeaking slightly on the polished floors. It was late, his third shift this week. And he was only here because a coworker had called in sick. Slung over one shoulder was his cleaning bag, in his other hand, a crumpled grocery sack filled with his son's favorite snacks and a small plastic dinosaur with one missing leg. He had just picked it up off the car floor. Being a single dad didn't come with manuals, but he was doing his best. The lobby was quiet, too quiet. The kind of stillness that made your ears tune in for something, anything. That's when he heard it. A faint, rhythmic beeping echoing from down the hall. He paused. It wasn't part of the usual background hum. Curious, he followed the sound, tracing it to the main elevator shaft. The numbers on the display were frozen. He tilted his head, listening carefully. "Hello?" he called out cautiously, stepping closer to the doors. "Anyone in there?" He pressed his ear to the cold metal. There was a pause, then a soft but urgent voice broke through. "Yes. I'm stuck. Please hurry." The woman's voice trembled, like someone trying hard to stay strong but barely holding it together. Jake's instincts kicked in. He didn't know who she was. Didn't matter. Someone needed help. He glanced around, no security, no maintenance crew, no one else. Just him, the janitor no one noticed. But in this moment, he was all she had. He tightened his grip on the toy dinosaur and took a breath. "Hang tight," he said, steady and calm. "I'm not leaving you in there." Jake's fingers fumbled with the phone, dialing building security. Straight to voicemail. Again. And again. He muttered under his breath, scanning the empty lobby. Maintenance was out for the night. Help wasn't coming, not anytime soon. The voice behind the elevator door was getting shakier, more panicked with every passing minute. He knelt beside the shaft, searching through his cleaning cart. Not much, some tools, a mop handle, a bent metal rod. It wasn't ideal, but it was something. He wedged the rod into the thin gap of the doors, gritting his teeth as he pressed with all his strength. Nothing. He adjusted his footing, pushed harder. The metal groaned in protest. His palms started to bleed from the friction, but he didn't stop. Just a little more, he whispered to himself. Sweat poured down his face, dripping onto the polished floor. Inside the elevator, Alexandra pressed her back against the wall, her heart racing. She could hear the grunts and scraping from outside. Then, light. A sliver of light pierced the darkness. The doors trembled open a few inches. Then more. Enough to see a face. A man's face. Not security. Not staff. Just a man, gritty, focused, eyes full of determination. Jake locked eyes with her. "Take my hand," he shouted, reaching in. She froze for a second. This wasn't supposed to happen. She wasn't supposed to need anyone. But something in his voice, firm, steady, made her reach back. Their hands met, fingers clasping tightly. In that single moment, two strangers from different worlds were no longer strangers. She, a CEO known for being untouchable. He, a janitor holding a toy dinosaur in one pocket and the strength of 100 men in his grip. Survival had brought them together, but something deeper was just beginning. The hallway was quiet now, save for the low hum of the emergency lights. Alexandra sat slumped against the wall, her blazer wrinkled, her hair undone, the polished image of a CEO unraveling by the second. Jake handed her a small water bottle he'd pulled from his bag. She accepted it with trembling hands but didn't drink. Instead, she stared straight ahead, eyes glazed, lost in the ticking seconds she could no longer reclaim. "She was all I had," she whispered, voice cracking. "My daughter. 8 years old. Brave, too brave." Her hands tightened around the bottle. "The hospital called during my meeting. Said I had to come now. They were turning off the machines." Jake didn't speak. He just listened. "I thought I had time," she continued. "I thought if I ran, I could hold her hand. Tell her I was proud. That I was sorry. That I loved her more than anything." Her voice broke completely. "But I was trapped, in that elevator. And now. I missed it." Tears streamed freely now, mascara smudging beneath her eyes. She wasn't the CEO anymore. She was just a mother, shattered, grieving, human. Jake sat down beside her, slowly. The toy dinosaur in his pocket dug into his leg, but he didn't move it. He stared ahead like she did, then said quietly, "I lost my wife the same way. I was working a night shift when she passed. I hated myself for years." Alexandra turned to look at him, startled by the gentleness in his voice. "But here's what someone told me," Jake added. "You didn't fail. You loved her. That's what she'll carry with her, wherever she goes. No grand speeches. No fixes. Just a man who knew the weight of grief. Offering his silence, his story, and the kind of comfort only pain could teach." The summer sun cast a golden glow over the rooftop of the high-rise, where the city stretched wide and distant sirens faded into the breeze. A folding table stood near the edge, set with 2 coffee cups and a simple white box. Jake stood awkwardly at the rooftop door, unsure if he was even supposed to be there. He had never been invited to the top floor, let alone the rooftop. Alexandra turned as he stepped forward. She looked different now. Softer somehow. The weight she carried hadn't disappeared, but it had settled in a way that allowed her to breathe again. "I wasn't sure you'd come," she said, offering a warm, genuine smile. Jake shrugged, half smiling. "Didn't know janitors got rooftop invitations." She held out the small box. Inside was a printed certificate and a check. "I started a scholarship," she said. "In your wife's name. For single parents going back to school." Jake's hands shook as he lifted the paper. He blinked rapidly, struggling to hold back emotion. "Why would you do this?" Alexandra looked at him, her voice quiet. "Because you gave me something when I had nothing. A hand. A moment. A piece of your heart when mine was breaking. Let me do the same. For the first time in years, Jake didn't feel like a background character in someone else's story. He felt seen. Valued. Human. He looked out at the city skyline, eyes misty. And beside him stood a woman who once ruled boardrooms but had rediscovered something greater, compassion. Sometimes, the people we save end up saving us. And in the cracks of a broken moment, kindness finds a way to shine. In a world where status often separates us and struggles are hidden behind titles and uniforms, this story reminds us of our shared humanity. A powerful CEO, burdened by unimaginable loss, found herself trapped, physically and emotionally. And the one who reached her wasn't a colleague or an executive, but a humble janitor and single father, fighting battles of his own. What began as an elevator malfunction became a turning point for both Alexandra and Jake. In a moment of fear and vulnerability, two strangers connected not through power or position, but through empathy. Jake's act of courage and quiet strength opened a door far greater than the one he forced open with his hands. It opened the door to healing, to hope, and to new purpose. By honoring Jake's late wife with a scholarship, Alexandra transformed her grief into a legacy of giving. And for Jake, a man used to being invisible, that moment made him feel truly seen for the first time. Their paths were never meant to cross. But sometimes, the universe doesn't follow plans, it follows hearts. In the end, this is a story of how compassion in an unexpected moment can echo far beyond itself. Because even when life breaks us down, it's kindness that builds us back up.